Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are tackling a massive paradox about modern burnout. We're going to explore a really simple question. Why in the world has meeting our basic, fundamental human needs become this grueling, lifelong struggle? I mean, we live in an age of unbelievable technological advancement, yet so many of us feel like we're just constantly running on a treadmill merely to survive. Well, let's look at a fascinating perspective that absolutely challenges everything we've been taught about work, success, and what it actually means to live a good life.
We're going to dive right in with a pretty profound realization from a man named Jandai. He completely flipped conventional wisdom on its head after figuring out that the modern rat race is, honestly, completely unnatural. For him, life shouldn't be this endless grind. He firmly believes life is fundamentally simple and that it is truly simple and fun. But, getting to that realization, it definitely wasn't a straight path for him.
Part 1. The City Illusion.
So John actually grew up in a poor but deeply joyful village in northeast Thailand, where everything just felt easy. But visitors kept telling him he was poor and needed to chase success, so he packed up and left for Bangkok. And in the city, he worked tirelessly. We're talking at least 8 hours a day, studying and grinding, just to afford a single bowl of noodles per meal while sleeping in a sweltering, crowded room. Now contrast that with his village life back home. People there only worked about 2 months out of the entire year to plant and harvest their rice, and the rest of the year, daily naps after lunch, hanging out with the community, and monthly festivals. He suddenly realized he was working incredibly hard in the city just to barely survive, while his supposedly poor village life had actually been incredibly abundant.
Part 2. Education and Destruction. Still desperately looking for a way out of his struggles, John enrolled in university. But what he found there was a pretty disturbing truth about what we consider higher education. He didn't see his classes as tools for building a better society. Instead, he saw them as systemic training in destruction and complication. Think about it. If you studied architecture, you basically learned how to destroy mountains just to cover fertile land and concrete. If you studied agriculture, you learned how to use toxic chemicals that poison the soil and water. To him, everything modern society was doing just seemed to make life infinitely more destructive.
All right, Part 3, Returning to Nature.
Utterly frustrated by all of this, John just dropped out of university entirely and went right back to his village to see if the old ways still worked. And the results? They were staggering. 15. That is the number of minutes a day he spent working in his garden. By dedicating just 2 months a year to rice farming and 15 minutes a day to a garden with over 30 varieties of vegetables, he produced enough food to easily feed 6 people. In fact, they had so much surplus they were selling it at the market. He proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that survival is astonishingly easy.
Which brings us to Section 4, Decoding Our 4 Basic Needs. John realized that human existence ultimately boils down to just 4 fundamental pillars. You've got food, shelter, clothing, and medicine. That's it. Yet somehow, modern society has taken these basic requirements and turned them into lifelong anxiety-inducing burdens. Let's break down how he tackled the rest of these by completely ignoring what society expected of him. We just saw how easily he solved the food problem, right? Well, let's look at shelter.
Honestly, it is genuinely mind-blowing when you frame it like this. Animals in nature can build their homes in a matter of hours or days. A bird makes a nest in 2 days. A rat digs a perfectly good hole in a single night. Yet humans, supposedly the absolute smartest creatures on Earth, spend 30 years in crushing debt just to secure a basic shelter. John realized this was completely abnormal. Why on earth do we strip ourselves of our own natural ability to house ourselves?
So he decided to just build his own home using the earth. Using basic mud and working maybe 2 hours a day, just from 5 to 7 in the morning, John built a house in 3 months, completely debt-free. Now compare this to his friend, the guy who was the smartest in the class with top grades. That friend also spent about 3 months building a house, but he had to take on 30 years of debt to pay for it. By just stepping outside the system, John literally gained nearly 30 years of free time compared to his highly educated friend.
Okay, moving to the third need, clothing. Back in his city days, John constantly felt like he wasn't handsome or trendy enough. There was actually a time he saved his money for an entire month just to buy one single pair of designer jeans so he could look like a movie star. But when he finally put them on and looked in the mirror, it hit him. He was exactly the same person on the inside. Nothing changed. So he asked himself, why must we chase fashion trends? When you are constantly chasing, you're never ever going to catch up.
So his solution? It's hilarious, but it's brilliant. Don't chase it, just stand still. He realized that if he stopped buying clothes entirely, the problem just vanished. For the last 20 years, he has happily relied on hand-me-downs from people visiting his farm. And the funniest part is, because people see him in old clothes, they bring him so much stuff that he ends up with tons of clothing. Way more than he needs. He actually has to give it away. It's such a great reminder to buy only what we truly need, not what marketers tell us to want.
And finally, the fourth need, medicine. Initially, John was terrified of getting sick because he didn't have any money. But he shifted his perspective entirely. He started viewing sickness not as a disaster, but as a really helpful reminder. It just means you're doing something wrong in your lifestyle. It's your body's signal to pause and reflect. By using basic, natural remedies like earth and water, he learned to heal himself. By mastering these 4 basic needs, he made himself feel completely free and entirely fearless.
Section 5. Seeds are freedom.
Having figured out the basics for himself, John zoomed out. He recognized that so many people were still trapped in that exact same dark cycle he experienced in Bangkok. To tackle this on a global scale, he co-founded the Pun Pun Organic Farm. And his logic here is just airtight. Seeds are food. Food is life. If you have no seeds, you are entirely dependent on someone else. And dependency? Well, that means no freedom. If you cannot control your seeds, you cannot control your food. For him, saving seeds is the ultimate act of reclaiming our independence from massive corporations.
And that brings us to Section 6, Redefining Civilization.
Through his learning center, John is basically helping people unlearn all the complexity we've been force-fed. He wants to help us reconnect with ourselves, with each other, and with the earth. And this demands a total redefinition of what it actually means to be civilized. True civilization isn't about complex technology or massive universities or working yourself to the bone. True civilization is simply when those 4 basic needs, food, shelter, clothing, and medicine, are cheap and easily accessible to absolutely everyone.
Which leads to this absolute gut punch of a quote from John. I feel like now is the most uncivilized era of humans on this earth. Think about it. Despite our brilliant minds, our endless universities, and all our supposed talent, we have made simply existing harder than ever before. We work tirelessly for someone else, we bury ourselves in decades of debt, and we make life immensely complicated. By his definition, creating a society where the bare basics of survival are agonizingly hard to get is incredibly uncivilized.
The beautiful takeaway from all of this is that we don't have to be trapped. People might look at John and call him eccentric for living this way, but he doesn't care at all. He believes the real abnormality is how the rest of us overcomplicate everything. You can't control the outside world, sure, but you can absolutely control your own choices. So I'll leave you with this. Look at your own life right now. Are you going to continue running in an exhausting, infinitely complex rat race, or will you choose the radical freedom of simplicity? The choice is entirely yours.